Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Calls. This is the 2024 Wells Fargo Initial Research Show. We have reached another double tournament week, so we have a full week of shows here at Calls. Of course, tonight, tomorrow night, and Wednesday night will be the focus of the Wells Fargo Championship. Tuesday night, we will cover the inaugural Myrtle Beach Championship in its entirety. Research, data, whatever little there is, and DFS all in one show on Tuesday night for the Myrtle Beach Classic, so you don't want to miss that. But we are here for the Wells Fargo tonight and our first look of the week at Quail Hollow and the players in the field this week. It is a signature event. It is a no-cut event. So looking forward to digging into a big tournament this week, the week before the PGA Championship. I hope you had a lot of success this week. If you paid attention to social media, you would know that my week was really, really bad. I had a couple of pretty decent suggestions. S.H. Kim, Alex Norn, who I wasn't terribly high on, but thought was a decent play, but it was really bad. Kevin Yu did not turn out well. Peter Quest did not turn out well. Ryan Palmer did not play well. The only saving grace, again, Adam Scott was fairly okay in terms of a one and done, a couple of decent suggestions, the low price and very low owned SH Kim, as I mentioned. But hopefully you had quite a bit of success. We're going to try to turn around our fortunes the week before the PGA Championship. So let's cover the Wells Fargo. All statistics provided tonight and every night are from FantasyNational.com. It is the best golf analytics tool out there for your money. Look, if you're a member at Fantasy National, you're not going to have to listen to a moron like me. You're going to be able to have all of the power at your fingertips. Recent form, be able to look at all of the statistics, course history, rolling models, lineup generator. There are a lot of great tools out there. I simply believe Fantasy National is the best. So go check out FantasyNational.com. You won't regret it. In the description to the video, there are links to all of the social media. First off, my X and Instagram, where tomorrow and then on Tuesday, I will be posting research for the two tournaments of the week. Tomorrow, focused on the Wells Fargo and Quail Hollow. So if you want to see the weekly research that I do on the PGA Tour, you can follow at your preferred social media site. X is also where I place my weekly betting cards and my top player usage in the DFS contests I play. That comes out Wednesday evening after the DFS Tactics show here on Calls. And then lastly, for social media, Gabe's handle is in the description. He writes a very good article called The Fringe. It's a great way to start your week of preparation, and he continues to update you with his own version of recent form and course history. And if you're a subscriber to his article, which is free to do, by the way, you're going to be able to join us in his Substack chat every Wednesday as we continue the DFS talk after the stream and show here at Calls. We talk about game theory, our favorite areas of the price board, players that we're nervously fading, all of that. So you don't want to miss out on that great conversation as well. And again, the only way you're going to be able to do that is if you are a subscriber to his article. Lastly, we are live. Chat is open. Want to hear from you all. I hope you all had a lot more success than I did. If you did, please reach out to me in chat or in the comments. Would love to be able to shout out members of the community who have success. What are your early thoughts about Quail Hollow and the Wells Fargo Championship? Who is your favorite early on this week? What are you looking forward to in terms of metrics, and what do you think is going to play well at Quail Hollow? So let's do our initial research for the 2024 Wells Fargo Championship. And we start, as we always do on a Sunday evening, over at the GCSA Tournament Fact Sheet. We are at Quail Hollow Club in Charlotte, North Carolina, for the Wells Fargo Championship. Now, Quail Hollow is the usual host of the Wells Fargo Championship, but do be careful in your research this week. Quail Hollow has not, especially recently, every year hosted the Wells Fargo, because Quail Hollow is such a paramount course stateside. Quail Hollow hosted the President's Cup in 2022, so Quail Hollow did not host the Wells Fargo that year. And in 2017, the Wells Fargo Championship was moved to Eagle Point Golf Club in North Carolina. It might be Charlotte as well, but I know it was not played at Quail Hollow because the PGA Championship was played at Quail Hollow that year. So as you're going through your research this week, be mindful that 2022, 2017, and 2020 for 2020 reasons, the Wells Fargo wasn't played at Quail Hollow. So I just wanted to give you that information as we move forward. Quail Hollow Club in Charlotte, North Carolina. The first thing we note that it is originally a George Cobb design, but as we have said a couple of times, especially recently, this is a Tom Fazio redesign. He has had his hands on this course several times since its opening. I believe this is a typo. This should say 2006, although I do know they did some changes in 2016 as well, but I think this is a typo meaning to be 2006. The last big change was 2013. There was some few changes in 2016 as well. So nothing to do with Architect in terms of Fantasy National, but again, Tom Fazio does have his hands on a few courses on the PGA Tour, especially in terms of renovations or redesigns. Quail Hollow, as we talked about all last week, TBC Craig Ranch, a very, very easy course. One of the easiest, if not the easiest course. We are going from that into the spectrum to perhaps the most difficult course on the PGA Tour. Quail Hollow, par 71 at over 7,500 yards. This is just an enormously long course. The closing stretch, 16, 17, and 18, known as the Green Mile. Again, just long holes, long course. And we are going to be on some fast, and they have been lightning in the past, although very rarely, generally fast Poa Trivialis greens. So I've got our course notes for that as well. The greens at Quail Hollow, over 6,500 square feet, so they are slightly larger than the PGA average at 6,000. However, they don't play that big. One, just because of the length of the course and the amount of long irons that players have to hit into these greens, that's going to make them play smaller. And there are quite a bit of slopes and undulation in these greens, so they do play much smaller than their listed size, their average size. 26 acres of fairway is not a lot. These fairways can be very narrow at points, especially the further you get on the tee, or say the closer you get to the hole. The fairways can really narrow. Quite a bit of rough. About an average number of bunkerage, really. There are only 4 water hazards on the course, but they do come into play on 7 of the 18 holes at Quail Hollow. As I mentioned, the greens are Poa Trivialis. They are Bermuda base, but at this time of the year, Bermuda is still dormant. So we are going to be looking at Poa Trivialis overseed again, and ryegrass overseed on the fairways and the rough. Do note, though, even though this course is long and it's very difficult, the rough is not kept overly long, overly thick. It is not difficult to play out of, only at 2 inches long. The length of the course is the defense of Quail Hollow, and it is a very, very good defense, as I will note several times throughout this week. Some notes around some changes with Quail Hollow. Heading into the tournament, the greens, approaches, tees, and fairways are around a 50-50 mix, but can be considered, Tees, fairways are around 50-50 mix of overseed and the underlying Bermuda, but can be considered overseed surface areas due to the dormant Bermuda. Rough is 90-10 overseed. The course is closed for general maintenance. Generally every year. You see 4th longest course in total yardage on the PGA Tour, so an extremely long course. Let's see. The other notes here, they were resurfaced with Tiff Eagle Bermuda, but again, this Bermuda is dormant, so we're going to be looking at Poa Trivialis Overseed. Softened the slopes on several greens. Let's see. Resurfaced the greens again. Oh, I'm sorry. Resurfaced the tees. Extended a tee. Some bunkers were helped out. Trees were added to narrow the course, if you will, a little bit. So Quail Hollow, generally one of the most difficult tests on the PGA Tour, and they always do make some subtle changes every year. Good evening, C. Thanks for jumping in chat. Early player like Rory. No surprise there. He's played very well here. Obear, this does feel like a good Ludwig course. Homa, Fleetwood, driving accuracy. Tee to green, players who cross over with Torrey and Genesis. I do like the Torrey because of the long course. I don't know about Genesis, although, again, this is just our initial research. So, throughout the week, maybe that grows on me. But from an initial thought process, I don't know how much I like with the Genesis, but I do like the Torrey. Kind of, maybe not straight comparison, but thinking about players who generally play Torrey well, or you would think play Torrey Pines well, due to the length of the course, the amount of long irons that are required there, they're required here as well. But good to see you, and hopefully your Byron Nelson, good, the name escaped me. Hopefully your Byron Nelson was much, much better than mine. Because mine, I can't call it a disaster. I did, it was quite a losing week, but I did accrue some money back. But, when you are pretty all in on Peter Quest and Kevin Yu and Ryan Palmer, and all three of them missed the cut, not going to be a good week, and it certainly wasn't for me. So I think that's going to cover it for Quail Hollow. But the biggest takeaways: a very, very long par 71. These greens are generally kept pretty fast. They can get lightning, although rarely, but they can get lightning. They are large, but do not play as large as their size. We are looking at Poa Trivialis overseeded greens, 7 holes with water in play. So there's a look at Quail Hollow. So let's move to Fantasy National. The players in the field this week. Again, this is a signature event. It is a no-cut event. So there's a few ways we're going to be able to slice the data this week. And this is just full transparency here. I will not know who is in the Aeon Swing 5 and any of that thing until Fantasy National updates tomorrow. So if I am missing players, or if there's a player that is listed here that is not in the field, feel free to correct me in chat, but I'm just not up to the second on the Aeon Swing 5 and all that. But you see, I've got the 2024 filter here. With this being a signature event, the biggest names on the PGA Tour are here preparing for the PGA Championship next week in, I will say, my hometown, and I'm in a suburb of Louisville, Kentucky at Valhalla. Obear, Xander, Wyndham Clark, Billy Horschel is 4th in terms of strokes gained in 2024, thanks to his win at the Corrales. Hideki, Tagala, Batia, Hoagie, Siwoo, and he's going to rise thanks to his strong performance at TPC Craig Ranch last week. Matthew Pavone. There's a look at your top performers in 2024. One thing that we know right off the bat from the GCSAA tournament fact sheet, we're going to be looking at long courses throughout all of this week. Over 7,500 yards is what Quail Hollow plays. So, on long courses, those defined as over 7,400 yards, the past 2 years, our top performers, Max Homa, Batia, Xander, Wyndham Clark, Sung Jae, Matt Fitzpatrick, Ludwig Obear, Sahith Tagala, Jordan Spieth, and Corey Connors. Those are your top 10 in terms of performance on long courses. We will be looking at difficult, and I'll go ahead and set the filter to that. But before we get into that, let's see why Quail Hollow plays so difficult, other than the yardage, which again is a big defense. But let's see exactly why. So we'll take a look at the scorecard here at Quail Hollow. Right off the bat, you kind of just get punched in the mouth. A near 500-yard par 4 plays the 2/10 of a shot over par. You've got bogeys, and it's not necessarily doubles, although the green mile does bring in quite a few doubles here. And not a lot of doubles per se, just long, difficult holes. 495, 483 plays to almost 2/10 over par. A very long par 3 at 250. Now the par 5s are gettable. Quarter of a shot under par. Almost a half a shot under par. A semi-drivable par 4 that plays at 3/10. But looking at the green mile, a quarter of a shot, 3/10 of a shot over par. Just lots of difficult holes around Quail Hollow. In fact, if we look for the 9th and 10th most difficult holes, the 10th still plays to a 10th of a shot over par. 12th is still over par. 13th most difficult is still over par. We have to go between the 13th and 14th most difficult holes, or said another way, the 4th and 5th easiest holes before we find par. That defines pretty darn difficult already. Then with really only one good scoring or great scoring opportunity and a good one on the par 5 7th, you don't have a lot of areas to make birdies. Not a whole lot. So you stack up the scores that are over par with those that are under par. You see how the bogeys are higher than the birdies, and then this doubles bar is pretty healthy, 2%. The Eagles bar almost non-existent. You're going to get more scores that are over par than under par here. I talked about the length of the course. A lot of that is in the par 3s. 190, 208, 249. 184 is not necessarily the longest, but still a decent length. So a lot of length in the par 3s, and these par 4s, there are several that are between 450 and 500, including, again, the 495, the Green Mile, 506, 494, 462, 505, 483. Just lots of long, difficult par 4s. Moving into strokes gained by shot type per round. Don't get confused. I'm still going to be looking at the ball striking. A lot of approach, quite a bit off the tee. Your top 10s are really, really putting well. We move to the top 5s. You see just how much the approach really starts to factor in for the upper echelon of the top of the leaderboard. In fact, it almost catches the putting. 1-2, actually it does. It passes 1.127. No, I'm sorry. 1.12 versus 1.17, so it almost catches it. And then winner, you would expect you're going to be making a lot of putts. But again, don't look how much the approach still factors in. It's just our winners are putting the daylights out. You can't really count on that. So we're going to dig into the data, of course, all week, figure out how much putting we want to emphasize. But we're going to be looking at the ball striking because consistently from the winners, top 5s to top 10s, the off the tee was pretty healthily above the around the green. The around the green will matter. These greens are not easy to hit. But here's the top 5s. The off the tee is still, a pretty decent ways ahead of the around the green. Same for your top 10s. So this is one of the few courses, one of the very few, that I do like to look at all 4 shot types in terms of strokes gained because they all are going to matter. I do not think putting is going to be as big for our purposes as what it seemed to be for the winners. They're just generally, putting well. You would expect that from winners. I did okay. Noren missing That birdie on 18 hurt me. Get into the money with the lineups. That's good. Pretty good week and all. Sung Jae withdrawal. So I was fortunate in that regard. I only had one lineup out of all of them that I play, and I played multiple lineups. I only had one, a singleton of Sung Jae, so he didn't hurt me that much. But I had like 88% Peter Quest. He did not nearly play as well as I thought. The cut line moving to -6 really hurt me because I had a lot of Kevin Yu, who was very, very unique. He was a lot more unique than I thought he was going to be. That really hurt because I had about 80% Kevin Yu. So, I mean, for whatever good suggestions I had, S.H. Kim, a little bit of Norin, Adam Scott played okay. He wasn't that great. For any good suggestion I had seemingly 2 really bad ones. So it was just not a good week for me. I just got a lot of things. I can't say I got a lot of things wrong because TPC Craig Ranch played exactly the way I did. The players just didn't play how I expected them to. And it happens. I just had a bad week. Injury bug with Willie Z, Holland Spieth concerning. A lot to look at this week. Yeah. Willie Z withdrawal was a little shocking. But fortunately that happened early enough in the week that I was, clearly off of that. Spieth played okay, but you can tell he's not 100%. Bogey avoidance seems adequate. We're going to be looking at a lot of bogey avoidance as well this week. But I'm glad to hear that you had I don't want to put words in your mouth, but perhaps a mildly successful week. So we're going to try to keep your momentum, and I'm going to try to build some momentum this week. All right, moving to strokes gained by hole by par. All of these are going to matter, but you see the par 3s do lag a little bit behind the 4s and the 5s. Looking at moving up into the top 5s, much more the same, although the par 5s do start to matter a little bit more. And then for our winners, they're really scoring where you have to, which, as per usual on a PGA course, you have to take advantage of the par 5s. So the consistent thing is that the par 3s don't seem to play a whole lot, much like TBC Craig Ranch from last week. Moving to hole composition, we have a couple of middle length or medium length par 3s, one long and one very long par 3. Our par 4s, we do have 2 semi-drivable ones from 0 to 350. We have one short 400 to 450, I believe is at 449, to be honest with you. I believe, yeah, right there, 449. So quite honestly, this could be into this bucket here. And you see 6 of the 11 par 4s fall into this range. So again, this is another situation where, just like TPC Craig Ranch last week, we're going to see if this par 4 length is what we want to focus on. Considering that it makes up more than half of the par 4s. The difference, we do have 2 very long par 4s, both or 2 over 500 yards, one at 506, the start of the green mile, and 505 to end the front 9. Our par 5s, one shorter than 550, 2 medium length from 550 to 600. Here are correlated success at least partially significant. We can look at that. That'll be down here a little bit. So at least at first glance, that looks to be a little bit of the case. And we can look at the data, particularly tomorrow night. So remind me tomorrow, because I generally don't look at distance of putting. I generally look at, say, like 3-putt avoidance. But at least at an initial look, there might be something to that. See? Good observation. There might be something to that. We talked about, we're at approach shot distribution. You see, just like TBC Craig Ranch, most of these long courses like Torrey Pines and places of that nature, 200 plus is the majority of approach shots. Driving accuracy, much less here. These fairways are narrow. They are difficult to hit. There is quite a bit of undulation in between tee to green here. So the driving accuracy much lower. Green regulation percentage much lower. Long course, these greens don't hold as well. It's just a very difficult course. Scrambling not as easy here either. 3 putts per round, much higher than the average tour event. Distance is much higher. As I was mentioning, you just can't hide. You have to hit driver. Proximity to the hole, much further away. All of this just leading to tell you, extremely difficult. Extremely, extremely difficult. So there's a look at Quail Hollow from a scorecard and graphical view. Before we go back to our player page view, let's take a look at the historic conditions just very, very quickly. Again, last year, slight bit of an outlier because this was a signature event. So you had all the best players on the PGA Tour. So you did have 2 rounds of average, but definitely 2 rounds of difficult. What you won't see is easy. It is not easy here at Quail Hollow. Now, 2022, as I was mentioning at the top of the show, be careful when you do your research this week. There are specific years that the Wells Fargo Championship wasn't held at Quail Hollow because it was hosting big tournaments, President's Cup, PGA Championship, whatnot. 2022 is one of those. So 2022 was not played at Quail Hollow, but look at 2021. Every round difficult. 2019, 3 of the 4 rounds difficult. 2018, 3 of the 4 rounds difficult. It's just a difficult course. Very, very difficult. Greens have been generally fast. I thought, so it's pretty historical, I should say, when they got to lightning. I knew there were a few rounds of lightning, but so mostly fast. And of course, long course. Again, 2022 was not played at Quail Hollow. Quail Hollow is definitely over 7,400 yards. We are on Bermuda base, Poa Trivialis overseed. Okay, as I was mentioning, we're going to be looking at some difficult relative to par filters. So in the past 2 years, our top performers when rounds have been difficult relative to par: Rory, Wyndham Clark, Tommy Fleetwood, Will Zalatoris, Xander, Victor Hovland, Patrick Cantlay, Max Homa, Colin Morikawa, and Russell Henley are our top 10 in terms of total performance when rounds have been difficult. Let's just take a look at a few things here. We'll really dig into this tomorrow in terms of specifics, but for an initial research show, let's just kind of take a big picture view. Our top off the tee players, let's clear these filters. Our top off the tee players in the field this week, this calendar year: Rory, Xander, Siwoo, Ludwig Aubert, Chris Kirk, Wyndham Clark, Benny On, Tagala, Cam Young, and Kurt Kitayama. Surprisingly to see it 10th off the tee. Top approach players, we're definitely going to want to focus on this week: Hoagie, Connors, Batia, Finau, Lowry, Lucas Glover, Jake Knapp, Will Zalatoris, Austin Eckroat, and Justin Thomas are our top 10 in terms of approach. Around the green, don't want to ignore that: Hideki, Mackenzie Hughes, Lucas Glover, Yeager, McCarthy, Webb Simpson, who I believe is on probably a sponsor's invite would be my guess, Taylor Moore, Poston, Siwoo Kim, J-Day, Tommy Fleetwood. Lastly, we will take a quick look at putting, and we're going to have to look at the specific courses that we have looked at several times now. This Poa Trivialis overseed filter, we're going to have to look at the specific courses. So Harbor Town, we're going to look at Innisbrook, the Copperhead course, definitely looking at Memorial Park, the Houston Open from this past spring, Quail Hollow, course where we are this week, and I believe it's this top one, the Stadium course, there, TVC San Antonio. I should have this memorized how often we're on this, but San Antonio, Sawgrass, and Scottsdale. These are all the courses that are consistent on the PGA Tour that are Bermuda base Poa Trivialis overseed, which is what we have this week. So in the past 2 years, on Poa Trivialis overseeded greens, our top putters have been Matt Fitzpatrick, Nick Taylor, Sahith Tagala, Jason Day, Chad Ramey, Wyndham Clark, Matt Kuchar, Adam Scott, Denny McCarthy, Brian Harmon, and Xander. All right. Let's just take a quick look at our top 450 to 500 par 4 performers. Again, remember, 6 of our 11 par 4s fall between 450 and 500, and the one that falls into this range bucket, 400 to 450, is at 449. So you'd have to think that at least one of those days they're going to stretch the tee or move the pin or do something to make that one extra yard to jump into this range bucket. So I think that's a decent first look at a metric to maybe focus on this week, other than the main shot types, your main strokes gained. So your top par 4 performers in 2024 from 450 to 500 yards have been Hideki, Ludwig Ober, Akshay Bhatia, Rory, Xander, Patrick Cantlay, Tom Hoge, Wyndham Clark, Tony Finau, and Matthew Pavone. All right, with that, let's go to the tournament history tab, or page view, strokes gained total, however you want to phrase it. And again, this is going to be pretty difficult to sift through. 2022 was not played at Quail Hollow, so we don't want to pay attention to this year. I usually don't go all the way back to 2018 because there's no 2020, canceled for 2020 reasons. So really, we're just kind of trying to find look at 3 years of data, and that's what I have in Microsoft Excel for you tonight. 2023, 2021, and 2019. Our defending champion is Wyndham Clark. He wins the Wells Fargo, comes back and wins the U.S. Open at LA last year. Rory, to C's point earlier in the show, has played Quail Hollow very, very well. Won in 2021. Top 10 in 2019. Pretty darn poor last year, to be fair, but he's generally played Quail Hollow very, very well. He has said he likes this course. Max Homa, winner in 2019. Top 10 last year. So he's got a lot of very good form at Quail Hollow. Jason Day wins in 2018. I don't go back that far, but he is a former winner at Quail Hollow. Ricky, top 15 last year, missed the cut, and a top 5. Corey Connors has had some success here, a lot around the ball striking. Keegan, now again, don't get confused. This T2 is at a different course. So Keegan's been much more middling at Quail Hollow. T35, T18. Seamus, T18, T54. Grillo's been okay. Top 25, top 15. Xander's been very good in his 2 attempts here. Wyndham Clark, the win and a middling. JT's been okay. So there's a look at a few of the players. Like Gary Woodland has been very good at Quail Hollow recently. Top 5, top 15. This cut, again, not at Quail Hollow. I don't go as far back as 2018, and he had to withdraw with some injury-related stuff in 2019. Tommy Fleetwood's been good here. Top 5, top 15. English, been okay. Victor, good, very good in 2021, quite middling last year. At the other end of the spectrum, players who haven't played Quail Hollow the best. Kevin Tway, cut. T72, cut. Russell Henley, 1 for 2. Tom Hoge, 1 for 2. Colin Morikawa just 0 for 1. He just missed the cut last year. So I must be mistaken. I thought this was a no-cut event last year. It was not. It was just a, what they call them, a signature event, I guess, last year. Sepp Straka has been pretty darn poor at Quail Hollow. Missed the cut, T54. It seems like we should deep dive a little deeper into. We can do that. We can do that. Let's see. Benny On. You mentioned him a little earlier. Miscut, and a withdrawal. He has not played Quail Hollow well at all. Lucas Glover, miscut, T31, not very good at all. Mackenzie Hughes has been bad. Miscut. Again, 2022, not played at Quail Hollow. So he's been bad at Quail Hollow. Because you asked, let's take a quick look at Harris English. We can do that. I haven't looked at the forecast. From what I understand, and again, I got this information thanks to Gabe. He does quite a bit of early research. So from reading his article, it seems like rain is in the forecast there. I don't know about wind. We'll take a look at that starting tomorrow. Harris English does play his best when it's difficult. Hasn't played since the RBC Heritage. Masters is okay. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe. Let's see. Did finish third last year. Very, very strong. So, yeah. Okay. I can see it. Maybe a little bit. So with that, I think this is a good segue. Let's take a look at all of the players, shall we? And move to Microsoft Excel. The early look file. Again, this is performance specifically at Quail Hollow. And I only go back 5 years, so there's only 3 years of data in here. 2023, 2021, 2019. 2020 canceled. 2022 was played at a different course, so that way they could look at or prep for the President's Cup. So, of the players who have played at least 2 of those 3 years, we'll filter out anyone who's only played it once. You have Xander, averages a top 10 here. Gary Woodland, as I was mentioning, very, very good. Tommy Fleetwood's been very, very good. Shank has not. 1 for 3, average finish of 60th, has not been good. He's hit his high, and it's surprising. Like, he's actually been okay. Like, the irons aren't great, but it's been acceptable. He's been field average off the tee. He's really putt well, but for whatever reason, he has just not had solid finishes. So if we look at players who have averaged with an elite field like this, let's cut it down quite a bit. Let's look at top 30. Players who have played it at least 2 of the 3 years and averaged a 30th place finish or better. It's only 10 players, but when you get a small field like that, that's what you got to look. You got to expect a smaller sample size. Off the tee here, 1.3, pretty strong. Brennan Todd has not been great, and a lot of that you can see is from the lack of distance. Grillo actually hasn't been very good off the tee either. But for the most part, off the tee does play a decent little factor. What you will see, every single player positive in approach is just a huge facet here at Quail Hollow. Grillo 6.5, Xander 3, Woodland 4.5. Of course, we took out Wyndham Clark. We'll bring him in. No, he's played it twice. Where is Wyndham? Oh yeah, that's right. He had a first and a T43, and he missed the cut. So he's actually getting dragged down quite a bit from his missed the cut. But he's been solid here. Let's see. Tommy, been pretty darn good. But again, I just want to emphasize, look at all these players that are positive in approach, and that's who's at the top of the historical performance at Quail Hollow. You've got to be good with your irons here. You just have to be. Looking at just the top 30, this is an average of 3.4, so almost three times the strokes gained in approach that they were for off the tee. Around the green, most of these guys are above field average as well. This is a 1.3, just like the off the tee. But there are much bigger numbers to be gained in off the tee. There's much more to be gained in off the tee. You see, like Brendan Todd and Emiliano Grillo are really bringing down the average in that off the tee. You take out those two horrendous performers in off the tee, and this rises to a 2.4. So, not to say the around the green is insignificant. I mean, we'll be looking at all 4 shot types, but off the tee is there's much more to be gained in off the tee than the around the green. But only one player negative in around the green. Brendan Todd, one of the best putters around, so no surprise to see him be very good. You can't expect him to gain 9 every single tournament, but that's what he's averaged. He's averaged 9 every year playing at Quail Hollow. Xander, a 3.5, solid. So for the top 30, this is a 1.9. It's just solid. I just don't think it's the be-all, end-all that the course breakdown wanted us to believe from the winners. I think there was a spike performance in there, but we'll take a look at that tomorrow in the prior leaderboards. So again, heavy emphasis and approach. I will be looking at quite a bit off the tee, except for Todd and Grillo. There's a lot of very strong performances from the players who have played the best here and played it at least twice. Willie loves it here, but he just can't putt. He hasn't putt well here. But, I mean, the guy is a major champion. Say what you want about Gary Woodland. He is a major champion on a very short course at Pebble Beach, but it was still Poa Anna versus Poa Trivialis, but it was still Poa. Looking at distance, I mean, Brendan Todd's never going to have any distance. Rory, a lot of his gains here at Quail Hollow have been because of his distance. But mostly you see a lot of players that are pretty darn close to field average, except for some high unique options here. So I don't know how much off the teams don't matter. I don't know how much distance is going to matter versus just being good off the tee. We'll have to see. Dig into the prior leaderboards tomorrow. Fairways looks like it can matter for some players like Brendan Todd. Doesn't matter for players like Rory. It looks like it's in this good drives gained. Whether you're able to hit the fairway or hit the green in regulation from the rough, looks like is where we're looking at right now. All but one player positive in good drives gained. Greens, I would say generally are pretty important, but I mean, we even have a couple of players negative in greens. So it actually might be the good drives gained. But again, we'll take a pretty good look at that tomorrow, especially in the prior leaderboards. Looking into scoring, I would suspect that the bigger numbers are to be gained in the birdies, but the more consistent is in the bogey avoidance, and that seems to be playing out here. Not a single player negative who's averaged a top 30 in bogey avoidance, whereas you have bigger numbers, larger numbers in the birdies gained, but you also have players that can be negative in birdies gained or don't have to gain a lot of birdies so long as they're avoiding the bogeys, because generally speaking, pars are good scores around Quail Hollow. So it's about the bogey avoidance. That's what I believe. Moving into par 3s, 4s, 5s, we saw that the par 3s didn't really matter a whole lot. Having said that, only Xander has been negative at the par 3s. Okay. We'll have to see tomorrow in the prior leaderboards. But, this is a 1.5. But, man, look at those par 4s. Look at the par 4s. My goodness. That's a 5.4. That's one of the biggest numbers I've seen in terms of averages on how important a par 3 versus 4 versus 5 is. And then the par 5s, you've got down to Seamus, is a 0.9. So, yeah, a lot of these par 4s. I'll be interested to see what the prior leaderboards look like tomorrow about the par 3s. Griot's played them well. Connors and Power have played them fairly well. Rory's played them okay. But like Wyndham Clark, or defending champion, he's been okay at them, but not great. So, what is undeniable about Quail Hollow, you got to play these par. Look at this. Look at all this. I mean, all the way down to Adam Schenk, who averages a 60th place finish. They're positive in par fours. You've got to play these well. And look at the 450 to 500. All the way down to Svensson. They're all positive. And then, again, all the way down to Schenk. So Svensson's the only one that's negative in this length of par fours. This is why I highlighted that range of par fours earlier in the show. Huge, dominating factor of Quail Hollow is these 450 to 500 par fours. So find the players that are going to play these the best. You're generally off to a good start. That's not the be-all, end-all, but you're generally off to a good start. So that's why I focused on that earlier this evening. And then looking at the par fives, Xander's played them extremely well. But Tommy's had good success here, and he hadn't played the par fives, very well. Wyndham Clark, he's only been slightly above field average. Rory's essentially slightly been above field average, so you don't have to dominate these par fives. It's really about those par fours. At least looking back, based on what we saw over here, there, and there. We'll end it off with some proximity. Let's see. Majority of them come from 200 plus. Okay, all of these guys, except for really Tommy Fleetwood, are acceptable at 200 plus at Quail Hollow. I mean, Xander, yes, that's a negative, but that's essentially field average. Negative 5.5 for a tournament is field average, essentially, just slightly less. So yeah, it does look like the 200 plus is playing a pretty good factor there. Total procs also might be something that we might want to look at, or at least pay, give some credence to tomorrow and investigate. And because you mentioned it, let's take a look at the 0 to 5. Just really quickly see. Okay, yeah, I mean, some players are not performing very well at that range at all, and it hasn't stopped them from having a lot of success. But you do have some decent numbers here. So might be interesting to at least take a look. I'll make sure to take a look at that as I'm doing my research tomorrow, and I'll try to have a more definitive answer for you in the Data Dive show tomorrow. Even if we don't look at it all, at least I'll try to have something for you about that. But that's an interesting idea and interesting thought. Would make some sense because these greens are fast. We saw the amount of 3-putts that are here, and I generally attribute that to 3-putt avoidance. Maybe the better thing would be to look at 0 to 5 feet. Who knows? Or maybe looking at the same thing 2 different ways. But that's what I have for you all this evening. In terms of an initial research, an initial look at Quail Hollow and the players in the field this week for the Wells Fargo. Thanks to C for jumping in chat. Thanks to everyone else out there who tunes in, watches, listens, supports the channel by liking the videos, commenting, and subscribing. I always appreciate it. Love what I do, taking a very in-depth look at statistics, trying to give you a statistician and data analyst's view of what he sees, trying to help us all win a little bit of money in the process. Hopefully you didn't follow me too much last week because I was pretty wrong about a lot of things. I got a little bit right, but mostly I was wrong. So I'm going to try to correct myself, build some momentum this week at the Wells Fargo and at the Myrtle Beach Classic. This is a double tournament week, so if you weren't here for the intro, we have a full slate of shows this week. Of course, tonight, tomorrow, and Wednesday will be focused on the Wells Fargo, but Tuesday night, we're going to have the research, the data, whatever little there is since it's the inaugural playing of the Myrtle Beach Classic, but research, data, and DFS all in one show Tuesday night for the alternate field event, the Myrtle Beach Classic. So a full week of shows here at Calls. So hopefully I will see you for the majority of those shows. And I wanted to give you that update. Be on the lookout tomorrow on social media as I give you my research for Quail Hollow. So look at some of the form from the players that have won, the winner matrix, and we'll cover all that tomorrow in the show, in the Data Dive show tomorrow night. So thanks again for tuning in. For all of the wagers you made this past week for the Byron Nelson, for all the DFS contests you played this past week at the Byron Nelson, and until I see you tomorrow night for the Data Dive show, may all your bets be profitable.